Hello guys, and welcome to part 2 of making an all-dimensional wireframe creator. So basically, I was trying to make a modeling tool that could create wireframe objects in higher dimensions. Last video, I could barely get a hypercube to render properly, so I obviously had a lot of work to do. The first thing I did was making each clone have to render more and more points, so that there could be more than only 300 points. Starting from the 9th dimension, each clone will render 2 points. Then the 10th dimension renders 4 points, and so on. I also spent like 3 hours trying to add a second point coordinates and rotations list. But then I remembered that turbo warp was a thing and could support infinite clones and list items. It also had decent frame rate all the way up to 18 dimensions, so I decided to completely switch to using turbo warp. Next, I tried fixing the rendering problem, and it turned out to be much more complicated than I thought. Because my brain capacity was too little, I decided to use other ways to make it look like it was rendering correctly. I first tried making the calculations for points above 4D to replace the x coordinates of the next point, but it just ended up looking like a huge mess of glitched points. I then tried switching both the x and y to sign, instead of sin for x and cos for y. It did look slightly real, but the hypercube would keep on getting unnecessarily wide. I then tried making it so that the 5D points that keep on acting like they aren't 5D move at a faster rate than the 4D points, which actually looked kind of convincing. I did this by replacing points that has a 5D coordinate of -1 instead of 1. But however, I realized that all the 5D points were all 1. After some debugging, I realized the problem. For each tesseract that it adds, the counter which controlled whether a point was 1 or -1 reset, therefore making all tesseracts in the same V coordinates. It was extremely stupid, and I wasted like 20 hours of my life, but at least it could render things above 4D properly now. Because of this, I could now see that everything in a higher dimension than a cube was not connected. Previously, I had been making an entire section for every dimension to connect, and now that I had to connect an infinite amount of dimensions, I just combined the code. I also realized that I forgot to remove the 299 clone limit that I put earlier, since dimensions above 12 stopped rendering properly. But when I removed it, I realized that it caused an extreme amount of lag in higher dimensions. So I put the limit back and changed it to 1024. This caused dimensions above 13D to stop working, so I finally decided to make it adjustable as a kind of level of detail setting. I then added a point adding system. It was pretty simple, consisting of just the sprite asking for all the coordinates of the new point and which point to connect it to, so I decided to make it more user-friendly and more like a modeling software. I already attempted to recreate Blender in Scratch before, so this wasn't too difficult for me. I then added an object system, settings, a choice to add hypertetrahedrons, which I didn't finish, and an object structure editor, which I also didn't finish. I also made it savable through lists. For the sake of this video, I made a temporary button that you could change the coordinates of objects by asking, since I do not want to delay this video. But yeah, once I finish them, this will be basically finished. Sadly, you cannot open the saved string into another software, since there are no other dimensions which support 4D. But I did make it pretty decodable so you can easily put it in a program or something. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and see you next time. Bye.